welcome everybody, and obviously we will have a conversation about how to log in. Um, the registration for today was a small group, and a couple of people who I knew registered aren't here, and one who does not appear on the list. Is it Mukin? Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. I just got registered 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Meetup, and on the meetup, actually, there was a clickable link. I just clicked on that, and it got me here.
But for those of us who registered 3 weeks ago and didn't know to copy that and put it in our calendar,
Yeah.
that's why Joan and I had to go fiddling around.
Well, I'm glad you're all here.
So Mukin is Marilyn's friend, colleague, and was last week when we talked, she asked if I wouldn't forward her the email for the meeting so that he could consider joining us.
Okay, well, welcome. I think all of us on this call, except you, we can know each other. And I think if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll give you just like a 1-sentence summary of who we are, so you know what's going on. But tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So sure. So you asked me to introduce, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So just one other thing before I start is in some other Zoom meetings, and I also have the Zoom subscription. It is possible to activate the live transcripts, and because I have sometimes little hearing problem, so it helps to have the live transcripts or captions as they call, and I'm happy to send the info on that if needed. But so my name is Mukin, and I am in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada, which is little north of Toronto, because many people probably know Toronto is the capital of Ontario. And I'm in a small community which is called Newmarket. It is on the north of about an hour drive from Toronto. So I was introduced to the group by Marilyn, who is probably a member, but she forwarded me the email. We have been working, we have been in the group together on a coaching group through the Institute of Life Institute of Life Coach Teaching, or the ILCT. And we attended a course of about 20 hours together, and she is working on getting the certification, and I'm working on getting the certification. But I have 60 hours of training with ILCT, and I have been actually group coaching kind of on my own on mindfulness, on meditations, and on writing as more like journaling for last about 5 years. And I am very familiar with the Meetup and Zoom. So basically I'm here to connect with others and possibly, support, get support and offer support, whatever can be just part of this team.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, and welcome. Let's just do a brief go around so he knows what kind of soup we're swimming in. I'm Leslie Austin. I have been an executive coach for many years, and I'm slightly modifying my model to mentorship and advisory because it's a slightly different kind of work and at very senior levels. And my brand for many years by a client was the lion tamer, because I deal with difficult people.
It's not all the way in. This one?
Get to feel better.
People need better.
Phyllis, could you read this out?
It's like, well, then there's a problem with this thing.
Okay, I've muted Phyllis until, whatever.
Till she stops fighting with Bill.
Yeah, right, whatever. Okay, so that's me. Joan, would you like to say a couple words? Welcome.
Yeah, I have been a outplacement career coach for 30 to 40 years. And so I worked with client companies that were firing people. But then about 5 years ago, I got certified while I was still with the firm as a retirement options coach. So that's what I have been doing since I moved from Connecticut, New York to Sarasota. I've done some outplacement career work, but mostly retirement options, helping people have a fulfilling life in retirement. And most of them do want to keep doing some kind of work.
Yeah.
Retirement is not like it was 30 years ago.
No, it isn't. I'm finding 70 is the new 50.
Right.
In a way. Thanks, Joan. Nina?
Gotta find my unmute button here. Hi, everyone. I'm Nina Schmidt. I'm an instructor at USF, where I teach finance and real estate classes. I've been a part of this group for several years now and really appreciate all the valuable insight that I've gained, which I like to apply in my classes, because ultimately teaching is really the same as coaching. And I've learned a lot from many of you. For example, Joan, I hired Joan to be my coach and learned a lot from her as well. So I'm excited to be here today. Thank you.
Nice, thank you. Deb?
Hi, I'm Deb Mazzaferro. Excited to be here today. I'm gonna have to leave early. I had a client I couldn't reschedule anywhere but at the top of the hour. I do coaching and consulting for specialty food companies. That's the people that sell to and make the products that you would buy at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods or the Fresh Market, for example. I'm a Gestalt trained coach, and right now I'm working on my certification in positive intelligence. And I just today got 2 clients, a married couple he's my colleague. We do a lot of work together. And I'm just so psyched to be able to put on my training wheels and give it a go.
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you. Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie Markuski. I'm an ADHD life coach and a tiny habits coach. I mostly work with ADHD parents of ADHD kids to help them bring calm to their life, or at least more calm to their life. But I am also, I love tiny habits. I love describing it to people, and I'm looking to work with small companies to help them with productivity in the workplace.
Great, thank you. And last but definitely not least, Phyllis.
I'm Phyllis Muffson, and I am a career coach. My training was through Coactive Training Institute, and I'm certified through them, and blah, blah, blah. Most recently, I trained in REM, which is an energy healing modality. So I'm certified in that. And I'm also, like Deb and a number of people here, I've taken positive intelligence and I'm doing the coach training. I primarily work with people who don't know what they want to do next, but there's like another category, which is about helping people build their practices or their business or their consulting business. And right now, that's actually what's leading. And I'm working with someone who used to be a newspaper columnist who's now writing a comic novel about retired journalists who moved to the villages in Florida and get into a lot of trouble with their neighbors.
I'm sure.
And I'm also working with a woman who I coached when she was an executive at a mining company, but she's now leading, as a retiree, she's leading a $15 million fundraising campaign for women's scholarships through the Seroptimist organization. So I am getting to edit very funny stuff. And I'm also getting to do a lot of brainstorming about things like how to recruit celebrities to be spokespersons for fundraising. So that's all fun. And I just graduated my first client through Positive Intelligence this week. And she loved it. She loved it. And, it got me very jazzed every time because she was having so much fun noticing how horrible she was acting towards her husband, and all the ways that she was like enthralled to her saboteurs, but she found it like fun and funny, and she didn't seem to take it personally at all. So it was inspiring.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the description for today was basically to kind of continue the discussion we had at our first in-person meeting last month. And I think we probably are going to try and do a balance of some in-person meetings and some on Zoom. Deb has mentioned in the chat that we're having a happy hour meeting at the Apollonia Grill Friday, June 3rd at 5:30. It's here in Sarasota. It's north of the UTC. It's in the Cooper Creek Shopping Center. It's near the Guitar Study Center. It's a really nice, they have a very nice menu. You can get gluten-free if that's your concern. And it's a very nice venue. So please RSVP to Deb or to the Sarasota coaches. Who do they RSVP to, Deb? Sorry, you're muted.
It's on the email, the last
Okay.
email at
Great.
the bottom. There's a link, and Deb Davis will keep track and then let me know. You can always email me directly, and I'll get Deb to send a reminder out the next Wednesday, 25th. Something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I'll just take care of a little bit of scheduling business. Deb just suggested to me that maybe we should have a session on positive intelligence since several of our members involved. I think it's a great idea. And if one of you would like to present, or you would like to recommend somebody to present on positive intelligence in this group, please just let me know ASAP so we can get someone and schedule. I think it's a wonderful idea since you seem to be having success with your clients and really enjoying doing certification. So that sounds like a really good idea to me. Anyway, we had a really rich discussion in person last month. And the two questions I posed to the group are the same ones I'm going to pose to you now, which were, over the past, I'm going to say sweepingly like 2 years, just pre-pandemic, through the pandemic, up until now, certainly our environment has been very volatile. And all kinds of things have changed. And all of the wise people I talk to are actually saying there is no new normal. We're not in a place where we have normal yet. We're still in a place of recovering from change and evolving new systems that are not formed yet. So we're in a very fluid time, and many people can find that some people can go with that easily, and some find the instability or the change as an experience of negative chaos. So there's a wide variety of ways of handling what's going on in the outer environment right now. And certainly the news is very chaotic and strident, if you follow news at all. So my two questions to you to think about, and we can kick off the discussion with these, are, over this last period of time, what two things surprised you the most about your experience? What surprised you negatively, like what was a challenge that you didn't foresee coming that you had to deal with? Something that was a difficulty or a challenge for you. And then equally or perhaps more importantly, what was a surprise that came up to you that worked really well that you hadn't foreseen coming? So I'm looking at in the chaos, in the change, there is no new normal. Old norms may or may not be holding. What are you doing now, and what was your experience, and how does that feed into how you support other people in your work or in your relationships? So if anybody would like to start. Yeah, thank you.
Since I got to go early anyway.
All right.
I really have better knowledge now that I've done positive intelligence, better language about this. I recognize how intolerant I am of people being the victim. So that's like the negative and something I have to work on. But so many people continue to, since the pandemic or because of everything's blamed on the pandemic, and in my hyper rational self, I'm like, yeah, it's never your fault, right? It's always somebody else's fault. So, I'm not the most empathetic person in the world to begin with. And that's my, that's my work around that, to smile through that and let people have their own perception. I just realized over the weekend, positive thing for me is that I completely changed my morning routine, which I wanted to do, and I kept stubbing my toe because I loved my morning routine. But I realized at one point that it wasn't serving me anymore. It was too relaxed. It wasn't proactive enough, even though, anyway. So that was my positive, is that over 24 months of, tinkering, I now have an entirely different morning routine. I don't know if it's good or the way I want it yet, but it's almost 180 from what it was.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. I guess it's obvious, but I'll ask you anyway. Can you say simply, challenging everybody, how that folds over into your relationships with your clients? Those experiences that, for example, you have a new morning routine. What does that do for you, and how does it support your work with your clients?
Yeah, it's all about personal, making time personally, because almost all my clients are on the West Coast now. So it's unusual that I have anybody before 11. And the earliest I have anybody is at 9:30, but I get up at 6.
Yeah.
And I was spending a lot of time on the news and, in a very relaxed, meditative state. And then, then I would do my walk, and then I would take my shower, and then, and I wanted the time to be more proactive rather than reactive.
Got it.
And so I'm now not sitting necessarily the minute I get up, make the coffee and sit down with so, and I read the paper at a later time of the day. And part of the reason for that is the paper is no longer delivered. It's all electronic. So it used to be I would go out the front door and get the paper and relax with it, and it was tactile. And now it's another thing on a device, which, I think we all try to limit our device time. So
that's
no,
one
it's
of
not.
my few luxuries is I still get a New York newspaper, the trashy one, the New York Post, delivered every day. Why the trashy one? Because I love the horoscopes, I love the gossip columns, But it's a total rag. It's a terrible newspaper, real trash. But because they're a muckraking newspaper, the real estate section and the business section is first class. So I find out what's going on in the business world way before the Times or the Wall Street Journal get to report. I find out the dirt, so I love it anyway. Thank you, Deb. Who would like to go next? Anybody? Well, I'll go. What surprised me negatively was I didn't take seriously the possible consequences of my not paying attention to some of the details in my financial situation. I was lackadaisical about some investments. And around the time the pandemic hit, I ended up suddenly overnight having a huge loss. So my entire retirement backup disappeared. Gone. That was a huge shock. And it's taken, and I had not been working full time, so I've ramped up, I'm back working. And that has been really a huge challenge to stay out of negative self-talk. And it took me a while to get out of that and get to a really positive place. The surprising gift of it is I am much more resilient than I thought I was. And I sort of had forgotten how much I love what I do. So the fact that I had to get busy and hustle and start talking to more clients turns out to be an enormous gift. And I'm slowly repairing the finances, so that's pretty scary still. But I love what I do, and that's a real gift. So that was a very big surprise to me. And what I'm looking at for me is realizing there is no expectation of anything being structured or ordinary in my consulting world as it used to be, steady clients, normal issues. Everything that's coming is of the moment and needs attention right now. And I'm fine with that. But it's a different mindset. So it's turning out to be challenging and a gift. And that's my story. Who else would like to go? Oh, and obviously it affects my clients because I'm much more empathetic with people who have had sudden shocks or trauma. I always worked on trauma, but this is different because I've been there where I never was. I've been in a place I've never been in my life before, ever. And that has opened up a whole world of connecting with people in struggle on a different level and really supporting them to not go into self-blame, not go into victimhood. It is what it is. You're not the person you were. You are the person you are now, and you have choice in the present. So whatever it is that you're dealing with, you can do something about it now, and you need to shape your mindset to support yourself to do something about it now. And that's really a gift, and that does support and help my clients. Who else would like to go?
I'll go. I thought when the pandemic started and you couldn't get near people, you couldn't go to restaurants without having fear, I was upset because I do like to be with people. But what happened is I had moved, from Connecticut to New York, and my clients that I was doing outplacement for were already, it was online. I wasn't meeting with them. I was getting a lot of referrals from people that needed career help in Connecticut, but because the companies weren't providing offices, they were doing it online. So I was getting a lot of business. And then when I started to focus on the retirement options, I got involved with a lot of associations. Besides this one was really helpful to me when I moved to Sarasota. But I'm on one now that there's hundreds of people all over the country. And we meet a couple times a month. So I got to meet a lot of coaches in the retirement area. And I'm continuing to get business, and it's all online. So it wasn't too much of a negative effect on me. And now it's sort of opening up, and I think I still have a lot of cases, but I think it's gonna. And as far as the news goes, I can't listen to it. It's just too much. Something's got to be done.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. So we have Mookin, Phyllis, Nina, and Stephanie. You're gonna make me call on you? Okay, Mookin, please.
Okay, thank you, thank you. I got myself in trouble.
Hopefully not too much trouble.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this definitely is a chaotic time, and things have been shifting and still shifting and all that. But for me, there was this sense of that actually there has never been a really stable time, though we don't realize it as much as it happened to the degree it happened with the pandemic and the other whatever is happening in the world and in the like in the neighborhood and in North America. I mean, so anyways, when the pandemic had closed off everyone in their inside their homes, and there were not many opportunities of connecting with each other, that was pretty stressful. And as soon as it opened to a degree, even like, about 1.5 years ago, the first thing which I did, and I have been kind of facilitating programs on mindfulness and writing in the local library, and then the COVID hits and the libraries closed. So I went on Zoom and online, and we continued with that, and everything was now virtual. So, but as soon as it opened, I have not done this in the way it spoke to me at that time when the things opened. I mean, I have been going to the library, but this time I thought, okay, I'm going to go to the park, local park, and I'm going to sit I'm going to make the arrangements for sitting and inviting people to come and meditate and write in the park. And so I started that, I think it was early May last year, and people start coming, and sometime a few, sometime more. So it went on through the summer and fall, but then I continued in winter, which is very, very, very harsh winter here.
Yeah.
But what it gave me was a total shift in my thinking. And the shift was to really be open to face any challenge. And through that challenge, how I can be calm and keep my balance and keep equanimity. So even like, so every Saturday I have to prepare for this. I have to take all the stuff, the chairs and all that. And then in winter, when it was -20 and things like that. So dealing with that actually gave me such a strength, and the people who came, and not always everyone was there in winter, but they felt the same thing, that it is really connecting with inner resourcing, our own inner strength. And when we actually face the challenge and can connect with the inner self, inner resourceful self, it doesn't matter what's happening out. Like we can stay in that balanced state of mind and take care of ourselves. So lot learning also in like how to take care of myself, and everyone also have the similar kind of feeling.
Thank you. I think it's amazing people show up in the winter at all, considering your winters. That's an accomplishment. Thank you very much. So we have Nina, Phyllis, and Stephanie. Okay, roll of the dice. I'll look on my screen. Nina.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, okay. No, Stephanie, please. Nina, you got a break.
Yeah. So I won't go into it as much this time, but the negative was that I just can't believe how selfish people can be. I won't go into all of that, but the positive that I've gotten out of it is that yes, I already spend too much time on social media, but the neurodiverse people that I've been friends with, our friendships really got stronger. I mean, you know, most of us took this seriously. We didn't go out as much. So we were on social media for the social aspect. And that feels good. I am having difficulty re-entering the real world social networking kind of thing. But I am also noticing and trying to work with online friends to extend community online. I had been having trouble the last few, well, since January, I've been trying to have a women's wellness circle via Zoom at 6 o'clock on one Wednesday a month, and like nobody was coming. But instead, I'm just opening up a room on Facebook at 9 o'clock every Wednesday night, and somebody shows up. And it's been positive enough that people have continued to come. So that was I mean, I may not be making any money at it right now, but that was what I wanted to find was community, and it is definitely necessary. So I'm going to build off of that and then find a way to monetize it later. But for the moment, essentially I'm extending what I'm already doing in my private group, finding a way to make it even more social, truly social.
Which is terrific. Thank you. And Deb said in the chat that she loves being your Facebook friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoy interacting with you too, Deb.
Well, I never would have known you as well as I do now, where you're coming from, you know, without that connection, you know, because you do, you post often and you post profoundly.
Yes.
And I love it. You know, it's like, hey, she's a kindred soul. I never, you know, we never, even though we have an accountability group together, I didn't have that depth of knowledge of you. But I'm really curious about the selfish comment. Can you just give us a word or two on that? Why are people so selfish?
Well, okay. So during the first year of the pandemic, I was working for I went back to work in an office right before it started because my husband lost his job. And so you know, it was construction, extremely conservative owners. And when the pandemic hit, they were both, the guy in the office and the guy up in Tampa were both like, oh, it's nothing, it's just the flu or whatever. And as it progressed, you know, it was clear that they still weren't taking it seriously. And the one guy who worked in the office, you know, continued to go out on dates and stuff. And at one point, by the middle of summer, he did get it. And he also gave it to our office manager and her fiance, who was one of our project managers. And she seems to have gotten it the worst. I left there by December of 2020. So I don't know how bad it was, but the point is I would go into, you know, my dad was now living with us. My kids tried to do online school at first, but then they needed to go into school to get things to get learning. And so, you know, I was really worried about my dad. And I was so anxious coming home from work. I was not driving the best. So I can see that now looking back. So the point is, I was taking it very hard, worrying about not getting anybody sick. And it felt like they were not. And it was just so frustrating to also see that happening in real life too. So anyways, that's where I came from.
Yeah. And that's been you know, obviously we all know it's been a very thorny issue to find a good balance of being considerate of others and also taking care of yourself and your own needs, and allowing for some differences of perspective, but not to threaten anybody else's well-being. That's been a real challenge. So thank you. Nina, you've had time to reflect.
Boy, are you right about that, Leslie?
Yeah.
It's been really eye-opening how diverse people are and how sometimes they're intolerant of others.
Mm-hmm.
It's anyways, yeah, being in the education field, you can imagine it's been an incredible challenge after COVID hit. I was there were times I literally wasn't sure I was going to make it or was going to have a nervous breakdown. We had to convert all of our instruction materials to online overnight. At the same time, the faculty that work for USF and are working for the St. Pete campus, which is me including, we had to convert from Google to Microsoft overnight. I mean, so I guess I was really pleasantly surprised that I was resilient, like Mukin. I was able to face the challenges and make the best of it. Like Leslie, with the challenges I was facing, there's been a lot of positive things that have come about. I've learned so much. It's been an incredible growth experience. I was very fortunate to be part of a mindful program that's been really eye-opening, and I've learned so much, and I not only apply to myself and my friends or immediate family, but I apply it to my teaching as well and to my students. And I'm just reading my comments from last semester, and it's just really, it's just really emotional when I hear how that works, how that focus on emotion works, because everything we do starts with emotions, and when you can control them, then and you know how to control them. First you recognize them, then you know how to control them. It's really a wonderful thing. The one thing that I still struggle with, I have to say, is my work has really shifted to online, mostly online, which means I have to sit a lot, and I'm exposed to the computer radiation and what have you. And not quite sure what to do about that. If anybody has any input on that, I'm trying to take some breaks and get up and walk around, but my life is really different. I'm a very physical person. I was a professional tennis player and have exercised my whole life extensively, and the sitting is really really taking a toll on my health. And then Stephanie, I was wondering if you find a way to capitalize on the making connections via social media and actually making it a viable business opportunity. Let me know. I have a friend in Germany who's trying to do the same thing. And
I appreciate it. I will do my best. I will let you know. But yeah, right now it's not there. But
yeah. You know, there's such a need for it. But at the same time, it's very difficult. How do you make money at it? You don't want to do it for free. It's very time consuming for you. You should be compensated for it. But yeah.
And I know that it takes consistency to build up, that people know to show up, and then they refer other people. And then you might go to a subscription model or, something like that. My one suggestion for you, Nina, is consider trying a standing desk.
I have one.
Or one of those, there's like a ball, or there are certain chairs that keep your spine moving more.
I tried that.
The chair.
The problem is, like, I can't just sit and kind of mess around because when I have to be super, super efficient. And for
Yeah.
some reason, being on the ball or standing up, I can't concentrate.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's a weird thing. When I stand, I'm very uncomfortable standing. I like to
Now,
move.
Lucan has said moving eyes exercise. Can you briefly tell us what you mean by that, Lucan?
Yeah, sure. So because when we are thinking, actually on the computer, our eyes are focused in one point, and in the thinking process also the eyes are kind of locked into some area. And so moving the eyes like circle, sidewise, up and down, cross, even yet you're just sitting and doing some exercise like that, it really releases the tension. So I have found it very helpful for myself. You really have to move, like really go up and down and at that kind of thing.
Well, thank you. That sounds, somebody had me doing that a long time ago and I forgot about it. So thank you for reminding me. That's very good. Okay. Again, last but definitely not least, Phyllis.
Well, when we had our live meeting, I think I talked about sort of some of the big things, which was that I had a comorbidity of being overweight and, found myself, in the anxiety of being home and things changing so much, I was eating more. And I just decided to flip that on its head and I lost 55 pounds. And then my husband had surprise triple bypass surgery. Like he just went for a test and they kept him and did that. It was totally unexpected. And then the way the healthcare system is, they sent him home after 4 days when he could do nothing for himself. So I was there advocating. I was in the hospital all day advocating for him. It was actually fortunate because this was in the first big lull in the pandemic. And until like 3 weeks before, that entire floor, the cardiac floor, was all COVID patients. Now there were none there. And so he was there, but it was still very chaotic. They would pick him up to take him to tests, bring him back, like the staff was really, they'd been working full out, totally stressed for months. And I think I'm crediting it partly that I was doing the positive intelligence class at the same time. But I just put my own needs, like when I felt like I had needs, I just went and did a couple of reps, which is like mini, it's like mini meditation, like for 2 minutes or 5 minutes, or I would just close my eyes, or I would just rub my fingers together, until I felt more grounded. And I just put myself into supporting Bill, supporting the healthcare professionals, encouraging them, giving them appreciation. And, Bill and I, and then when I was home, I was quite scared because he seemed still so wounded that I was like, I was thinking if I was getting him up out of bed, I was gonna like break him, But I just did it, and it was kind of a role reversal thing in our relationship because, like he dotes on me. We've been together for 20 whatever years, and he still just thinks like when I throw a snit that I'm being adorable. And I count on that, but it's like I just had to just like go for it. And I did. So like that was, I'm going to give myself the props that was a huge challenge for me, and I just did it. And I don't think I mouthed off or acted on top of it. I mean, I can't remember doing it once. I mean, now that the heat is off, I'm back to some of my old bad ways. But so I told about that, but what's happened most recently is that someone that I met through social media, and I've met her in person about half a dozen times, is a woman who owns a recruiting firm in Belgium. And she had some business in New York, and I used to go up and spend time with her and some of my friends from Twitter when I lived in Pennsylvania. Anyway, she met a woman who had been the director of SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management in the Ukraine, and who was now a refugee in Poland. She met her online, and they cooked up the idea of doing a mentoring event for human resource executives who were now refugees from around the world. And she invited a group of people to mentor them. And I was one of the people, and I was thrilled to be asked, really, because I've been wanting, to do something. And I gave some money, but I don't have lots of money, but I do have skills.
Yeah.
And so I did this, and I wound up in a breakout room with 3 people, and doing a LinkedIn review, which is what they were asking about. And so I only had time to do a very brief review with 2 of them, but I offered to all 3 that I would do it, at least 1 session. And then I upped it to 2 sessions. And then I just wrote to them saying, look, I'm on your team, just use me. So one fellow who's the HR director of Hyatt Hotels in the Ukraine is there. And now I'm getting the idea he's not going to be able to get out. Like he was, and he's still working, but like not getting paid much. But we write to each other. And then I'm working with 2 women, one of whom has actually come to Florida. She's living on she's camping. She has a friend, an Argentine friend who's a snowbird, who said, come stay in my house in Boynton Beach and use my car as long as you want.
Nice.
Her friends. And so she's there. And so I'm working with them, and I'm not getting paid. I don't care. And I'm getting at an age now where I'm thinking, at some point I'm going to retire and I'll just keep working, and I don't care if I get paid. If I get paid, great. But I guess the lesson for me in this is that I'm going to think probably my biggest drive is to be of service. And I was not really aware of that. Like I had a friend in Philadelphia who used to call me, say that she was a helper bee and I was a helper bee. And I would be like, oh, well, I can see where she is, but I don't do very much. Like whatever I did, it was never enough. And now I'm realizing that that's just my biggest drive.
Well, you bring up 2 very important points. I just heard a discussion this morning that one of the most important, I don't want to use antidote, but one of the best responses to ameliorate a sense of depression or anxiety is connection with others.
Yeah.
And the money is secondary, but the connection, whether it's in person and also walking, being in nature, but connection and being of service in some way or other, giving to others, supporting others, And everybody in this group has in one way or another said that the gratification or the feeling good has come from seeing that you have, maybe because of what you've been through or as a result or just your growth path, mindfulness, whatever, that you're having a positive impact on other people, and that therefore also uplifts you. That seems to be a really important theme. So going forward, is there anything in particular that any of you are visioning that you want to do differently, or have you pretty much said your piece? Is there anything anybody wants to comment on here? I have to put my glasses on to read.
I just put something in the yeah. So we had exercise came up, you know, change in eating habits. Because I was cooking myself nice meals and didn't have to drive anywhere, I was drinking wine every night, more, you know, still less than a half a bottle, but still every night was never my habit. So I think that anybody else that had like a physical manifestation to the you know, shutdown. I'm not going to blame it on COVID. It's the fact that we had to shut down.
Yeah, I got chubbier and less muscle for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I think any changes for me were all stress related. And therefore, as I got very mindful and less self-judgmental in managing the stress, everything balanced out. Well, we had to move from a rental house across the street from where we are now to the house we bought. And we signed the contract the week before the lockdown. Thank you very much. And so some of you know this, we moved from one house to the other by loading up the back of our SUV and backing it across the street and unloading it in the new house, and then backing it across, loading it and wheeling things in carts. And the only thing we used movers for was the big furniture. It was insane. I lost 30 pounds during that process, and I wasn't trying. And it was too much, too fast, too soon. I'd like to give 10 of those back now, but they slowly came back up as I stabilized my mindset and my mood. And a lot of that was stress and shock from, you know, the sudden financial stuff. And it is what it is. You really, what I'm hearing from all of you, which I find very heartening, is an acceptance of this is how it is now, and what do I want to do with it? I see the dark, I see the negative, I see the challenges, and given those, I have power, I have volition, I can make choices to make things better, to make my life better or more resilient. And I think that's probably at the core of why we all want to help other people and be coaches in one form or another. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Nina?
Yeah. So it's really all about the story we tell ourselves.
Thank you, Deb.
Because none of what we think is true. So once we realize that, and you're talking about, oh, I see the negative. Well, maybe it isn't negative, you know, maybe you can work on developing a different story and not say this was negative at all. Say, oh, this has been just really interesting. Wow, interesting to observe what's happening. And this is going to be how I'm going to deal with it and have a really exciting new part of my life coming up, you know. So it's all about telling yourself a story, and you choose which story it is you want to tell yourself.
Absolutely. The negative, when you label it as negative, it's your self-judgment of an event, and you're framing it that way. And when people do that a lot, I had to deal with this with myself and also my clients. When you get in the habit of doing that, you forget that you're doing it. And if you're really mindful, there is no positive and negative, it's just neutral. And it's how you respond to it and how you embrace the power of the present moment. I remember many years ago, Abby Hoffman of the Yippies paraphrased a Buddhist principle in his own language. But what it always stuck with me, what he said was the absolute power is only in the present moment. Absolute power is only in the present moment. In other words, in this present moment, you have choice and volition. You don't have it yesterday and you don't have it in the next moment. You have it right here and now. And underneath that, I know this runs through Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, many religions, not so much the Western ones, but there is a profound understanding that we are always impermanent in a state of change and flow. And connecting to that deeper energy is in some way what we're all talking about. Because Phyllis doesn't care if she gets paid because she's doing real service. That's a profound connection in the present where you know you have an impact. And it nourishes you as well as the people you're working with. I don't mean to get off into a whole preaching thing, but this it's very, I'm finding this discussion, and I really appreciate the vulnerability and the dignity with which everybody is sharing. That to me is very powerful, and I really appreciate that, because we can inspire each other going forward. At least that's my hope for raising these questions. Anybody want to have any other comments? I don't mean to be the one talking all the time. Comments or discussion? Because if not, I'll ask, are we good for today?
I think those of you who are coaches and you have your clients, I think this is an amazing opportunity. This challenging time and the learning you've gone through to really help your clients. You're very fortunate. You're very fortunate.
Well, in a way, as a teacher, you are a coach. I mean, to me personally, the word coach is arbitrary.
Yeah. No, and that's
you're a coach.
Yeah. So I've become a very different teacher since COVID. But there's been a whole journey on that. But
Yeah.
The COVID thing really was really that last straw. And what's so interesting, I'm just so much more compassionate with my students, and I totally understand where they're coming from. But in the past, I would get upset if they don't get their work done, and now I'm like, no, what's going on? Are you okay? How can I help you? Right? It's such a different mindset.
Awesome.
Yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, you seem softer.
And happier.
Yeah, generally, not just this moment.
Yeah.
I like what we were starting to talk about, the stories that we tell ourselves. Actually, that kind of runs through a course that I am putting together. It was mostly finished, and then we were asked to make a couple changes, so it's not out there yet. But it was Tiny Habits for ADHD, and that's one of the big things. It's not just the tiny habits that you change. You can take on, but thinking tinier. People with ADHD tend to be the go big or go home type of people. And so if one little thing doesn't work, we go all to pieces, thinking that we failed. And part of that just comes from all the negative things that we heard as a child, whether or not we knew we were ADHD. So anyways, one of the things that we were talking about in it is, making these tiny changes allows us to start to see our story changing. That's not always who we've been. See, we made this change. We can make a change. There is hope. We have to start small. We have to keep iterating. We have to think of ourselves as scientists, things like that. Instead of, I'm always a failure, I always do this wrong, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm also trying to take that into my always coaching. So, and I appreciate you bringing it up now, because I have something percolating that I want to do about that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think the key is in this moment, in this moment, in this moment. In that discussion I heard this morning, he was saying it's so important it's a guy a personal friend, also my doctor, who has a radio show out of Tampa. And he was supposedly talking about anxiety, but he was clearly on a workshop high, because he'd been in an amazing transformational workshop for 5 days. So he was sharing it with the radio audience, which was kind of wonderful. And he said one of the things that he has learned to do when he was feeling very depressed and anxious was, and it sounds stupid, but it's not, get up in the morning, and look at yourself in the mirror. Really look at yourself. Make eye contact with yourself in the mirror and practice saying, I love you and I appreciate you, and mean it. And he said when he first started doing it, it was so hard. And the more he did it, now he gets up in the morning, he can't wait to just stand in front of the mirror and say, I love you. And it sets his whole day. And when he said that, and I heard it on the radio, I got chills. Because really, it sounds so simple, but to mean it is so profound. And when you are in that zone with yourself, you radiate that energy for others, and they are supported too. They really are. So that's about connection. Yeah. Thank you, Morgan. Anybody else before we wrap up for the day? Well, I really appreciate your heartfelt participation, and I hope this was a good discussion for you. I'm going to try and set up something on positive intelligence for next month if I can. So Phyllis, I'll email you, I'll email Deb. Maybe we can come up with somebody, unless you want to do it, or Deb, or both of you, or we'll figure something out.
Okay.
So I think that just sounds terrific. And Nina, maybe we can line you up to talk about the emotional work that you've been studying and share that with us if you'd like to. Yeah, I think that'd be wonderful. It's just us chickens here,
Okay.
we'd love to have you share. Morgan, if you become a member, we'd love to have you present.
Okay, sure. So I just want to ask a question. I did look at the website, and I will go into the detail of what the next steps or whatever.
Bye, Stephanie.
But this meetup happen every week or every month?
No, once a month, the third Monday of every month.
Great. Thank
At
you
the
very
same
much.
time.
Yeah.
And most of them will be on Zoom. Some may be in person locally here,
Oh,
but
yeah?
vast majority of them will. It looks like it's still going to be Zoom. And we're
Wonderful.
adding in some social meetings for the local people, so we can
Mhm.
sit with each other in person and have some recollection of what it's like to be with your friends.
Right.
And be able to
Great.
touch their arm and say,
Thank you very much.
yeah. Well, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful
you.
day.
Take care.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.
Thanks,
Bye,
Leslie.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.